Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our little book launch party. I'd like to introduce the three panelists here tonight. We have Valerie Nafora, who is the author of the book that we're about to discuss with you, and Jamie Birbaum, who is our creative editor, creative partner in crime. And without Jamie, neither of these books would have been published. So the first book in the series, maybe you read it, was called The Fairmonts. I know I just blew that, sorry. And if you didn't read it, let me just give you a quick synopsis because that helps us set up the story for what we're going to talk about tonight. So the Fairmonts starts with Harry LaCroix, who comes back from the African wars to be with his living relative, Lois Fairmont, who has in turn married the Great Gatsby escape character John Fairmont. He's invited to their New Year's Eve party when Harry meets an orphan who grew up in a convent named Mary Whitcombe. Mary is a heiress for a missing fortune that Harry tries to uncover for Mary, and he finds himself caught up in a dangerous game of wealth and politics. That book, by the way, won the Author Academy Elite Award, the Amor Award, the Independent Press Distinguished Favorite Award for the audiobook, and the Hawthorne Prize shortlist. So if you haven't read it, I would urge you to pick up a copy and take a look at her incredible first novel. The second book in the series is now available in Amazon, and it is actually was whoops, I can't do this. I shouldn't do that, should I? It's called Mary Whitcombe. If you know, she's wearing red like we are.
Not me. I didn't get the memo.
I know, Jamie. I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
And so the second book was a surprise because we all tried to guess what sequel Valerie would pick, which character out of the Fairmonts. And I think Jamie got it right. The rest of us got it wrong. It certainly was Mary. So with that, I thought I'd go ahead and have a few questions to kick off our little discussion. And by all means, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. So Valerie,
Yes.
you came off a very successful first novel that you've ever written. And which, by the way, I still have the snapshot of it being on Amazon #1 list, right ahead for the one day, The Great Gatsby, which just,
Yes.
of course,
So
I had to
amazing.
open champagne that night. So tell me, what inspired you to write this series of the Fairmonts?
It was actually a dream I had during COVID. It's actually a twofold thing. One was a person who told me that I was the world's worst writer. So I don't know if anybody's ever had someone kind of tried to make them feel bad about something that they thought they were good at. So that was one. The second thing was this dream that I had with the Fairmounts, and I just knew that I had to write it. I had written different things over the years, and I never pursued it. But this one just felt different, and then it was a dream that I had during that COVID time. I think a lot of things changed for a lot of people during that COVID time, and it was my way of keeping my sanity.
I think that's a book in a waiting. What changed during COVID?
Book, I'm sure. I am sure.
So, Jamie, when you helped with the first book, did you think that a second book was going to come out, or did this surprise you?
I think when we finished, I think when the book was finally off to the editor and Val was starting to get edits and everything back from them, we started kind of talking about it. And I'm like, so is this it? Are we gonna, what's next? Like, you're stuck with me. I mean, you have been for 30 something years now. God. I'm like, so what are we doing next? And she's like, Mary. I'm like, all right.
So I have to interject here. So for those of you who don't know Jamie or what in the world she's talking about, Jamie is my Rick Rubin. So for those of you who don't know who Rick Rubin is, go find out real quick. So Rick Rubin's awesome. I'm a massive fan. So yes, Google it and then go get his book with the circle and the dot in the middle of it. So Jamie and I met at Emerson College. I did go to Emerson. And I think we were like probably the only sober people in the dorm on
probably most days and nights.
So yeah, very long time ago. And so Jamie and I have just been lifelong friends. And when I started pitching the book around, I got some really interesting feedback and things that people wanted me to change. And one person actually said that I should never publish the book because it would be really damaging to my career. It was such a horrible story, so terrible, it's awful, and these were people in the business and in the know, you know what I mean? So I reached out to Jamie because I knew that she did a lot of reading for other writers, like she's other people's Rick Rubin too,
Mhm.
and but I'm her favorite.
You are.
And I said, is this bad? And she's like, no. And just to be clear, I never changed the story. Like,
No.
so all those folks who said that my story was terrible, and it was bad for my career, and that no one was ever going to read it. My favorite award of all those awards is the Hawthorne Prize shortlist. That was the most, the one that I really wanted, mostly because I love Hawthorne so much. So, I guess is what I want to say.
True.
There's honesty right there. So, but Jamie said it wasn't bad, and I was like, okay, well, if Jamie said it wasn't bad, then I guess.
And I didn't just say that once. I can probably go back, and I've probably said it a couple, maybe 10 dozen times. I don't know. I mean, every once in a while, Val would get this burst of conscience, and I'm like, and she's like, but it's bad. I'm like, but it's not. Like, I'm not going to let you publish something that's bad. Like, it's just, and that wasn't just the Fairmounts. I mean, it carried over to Mary. So, I promise you, I will never, I read 100+ books a year by published authors, whether they're traditionally published, independent published. I read for, I don't know, what did I think, 9 other published authors on a sometimes monthly basis. And by the time their books get to me, they've already gone through the betas, their first person or only people to read it before, it gets to the editors. And I can offer suggestions, but a lot of it is already done. It's just for reviews. But for Val, she
Jamie goes first, and then it
yeah,
goes.
I'm the first, and I ask questions. We
Great.
talk things out. We collaborate, and it's my favorite thing to do. So
It definitely shows that you two have a long time friendship
Mm.
to be able to have that relationship and understanding and not want to kill each other during this
No,
process.
Jamie's awesome. There's nothing.
Never.
No.
That's great.
Kind of like you and I, Doreen. It takes a really long time too.
That's another book to write.
True.
So let's dive into Mary. Let me just give a quick synopsis for those who have not had a chance to read the book yet. So it's the early 19th century, and Mary Whitcombe's sheltered world shatters when tragedy leaves her orphaned. Her guardian leaves Mary at a convent where she finds solace but remains isolated until Marco, the gardener, arrives. It's here that Mary experiences love for the first time. However, another tragedy forces her to leave, thrusting her into a world where innocence makes her a pawn in a jealous game of wealth and politics. So, and you received the okay. So that kind of gives you the setting, and you have to read the book now to understand each of those tragedies and what it just threw her into an amazing, different life. So, if you talk about anyone being resilient, Mary is definitely resilient for what she's gone through and where she is. I'm hoping there's a sequel 3 because I want to hear more of where she goes. So what? Valerie, tell me a little bit more about, first of all, why you picked Mary out of all the characters from the first book to do the sequel on, and where do you think you're going to take Mary next?
It was decided for me. So as Jamie was saying, I handed off the final manuscript. The publisher had it, and I just sat in front of my computer, which is usually what happens, and I call it the muse. The first few lines of the book came, and Mary, I think, it was a stream of consciousness. The character, the voice was just in my head that started off, and I think she needed to explain herself. So if anybody's read the Fairmounts, I don't want to be a spoiler, but if anybody's read it, you know that there's some things that happen in it, and I think she just wanted to explain herself.
Did it take you a longer time to put Mary together than what it took to put Harry together?
I think all my books take about 2 years, right, Jamie? Like, like it or not,
Um,
it just
yeah, I mean, this one
wow.
definitely was about a year, year and a half, I guess, that we worked on this one. So yeah, and definitely Harry was Fairmounts were was closer to 2 years. So hey, we're getting shorter. So maybe book three,
I
it'll
still
be a year.
only do 4 drafts. I'm always a 4 drafter. I can't do more than, and the story's always is pretty much the way it is. Like, so
Right,
Jamie, what I wind up doing is I send Jamie chapters as I go. And like she said, she'll ask questions or whatever. And then I send her the final, and then she sees it. She's like, yeah, it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. And then it goes out. Then it goes
right.
out to the publishers and the editors and the whatever. And they say yes or no, because your publisher may not want to publish your book again. They're like, no. So far, all right, I'm in twice now.
Yep,
So that's
2 for
good.
2.
Yay! Thanks, igniting souls. That's 2. So that was kind of exciting. But yeah, Mary was hard. I will tell you, Mary was hard because writing as Harry and Mary, but writing as Harry LaCroix was just so much easier for me because I definitely identify with Harry. Like I understand Harry inside and out. Mary, I don't understand at all. So writing as a character that I really didn't understand as well was most certainly an experience and something that I Jamie heard me call her late at night.
That's fascinating, though, that you could write about something that you yourself aren't sure of who she is. Yeah. So did you end up having a favorite scene or a favorite part of her life?
Yeah. The one that was the heart. So if you read the Fairmounts, there's this one scene that when you get to the end of the book, you're like, wait, what just happened?
Right.
And why did that happen? And what did I miss? Like, you're like, where did I miss it? So writing that particular scene with John Fairmount was the one that was the most challenging. I think we had several rewrites of that. And the most fun.
Jamie, did you have a favorite?
It's really hard. I think one of my favorite scenes is when Mary meets Marco for the first time at the convent. And she's so innocent, like just so innocent. Like these nuns are not just her teachers and her playmates, they're her family. And she's never seen a man, or in this case, Marco's, 17 years old. So, he's a teenager. So, but he's a much more worldly teenager than, Mary at 14, I think we decided.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like so thrown off by him and doesn't understand. And just her basically falling, it just really, the whole thing just stuck with me and still sticks with me. So, it's just the start of her life, really.
Yeah, I felt the same way. The whole Marco piece of the story I thought was really great. I loved it. Not that he was just because he's Italian and I'm Italian descent, but I very much enjoyed that. Thank you for throwing the Italian in there, not the. Of
course, you have to do that.
Of course,
cousins, neighboring countries. Jessica said that Marco is smoking.
I could agree with that.
I love that. So Valerie, would you like to read an insert?
Sure. I do have one more favorite scene, and I'm trying to share it but not spoil it.
Be careful.
No, there's a scene where Mary goes driving with John Fairmount.
Oh yeah, I like that one too, actually.
Yeah. And trying to figure out how I'm going to say it. They go driving, and this is where they strike their bargain, if that's the best way I'm going to say it.
Yep.
And the stunning mastery that John Fairmount displays in getting this orphan who grew up in a convent to agree, I thought was just like, wow. Anyway, I know I wrote it, but I don't
I
always
called
realize
it,
that I wrote it. But
and I call it sorcery. It's John Fairmount's sorcery that gets her to do what
he needs.
really happens. But I'm not.
Actually,
Neither one of us are spoiling it.
Yeah, we're
yeah,
not
but you,
spoiling it.
I thought the sequel was going to be on John. So maybe we'll have
I
the
know.
third,
Nope.
fourth.
If you get the book, there are 2 chapters to book 3 in the back. Yeah, because I started it already. Much to
I
Jamie's like,
saw
you
that.
doing what
That's
now?
the thing. John
Like,
took me
hey,
for.
here's
You
what
gave
I did.
me. You sent me those chapters. We weren't even done with Mary yet, and I'm like,
I was done with Mary. All right, here we go. So we're gonna go back to the beginning. Um, so the book Mary Whitcombe takes you back to when Mary's orphaned and goes to the convent, through her life in the convent, when she leaves and goes to stay with the Longs, and then of course everything that goes down with the Fairmounts a little beyond. So you get to see a really an interesting scoop. So we're going to the beginning. Okay. And she's talking as she's remembering herself as a child, if this helps. Okay, so we start. I remember his face when he came for me. He wore his glasses on the tip of his nose and had a soft voice. He was my father's friend. I would sit on his lap, and he would bounce me on his knee as I pretended to ride a horse in the races. Sometimes I would win, sometimes not. He would do this as he and my father discussed things in my father's study. I remember the study having lots of light and books and smelling of smoked pipe, a sweet and sticky smell. And when the windows was left open, it smelled of gardenias. Sometimes I would take my doll and hide under my father's large mahogany desk. I remember it had carvings of little cherubs around the edges. I don't remember that day being any different from any other when the man came into the nursery. I must have been about 4 or 5 years old. Hello, Mary, he said. Hello, I responded. Father's not here. He went away in a big ship, but I'm too little to go. It was not unusual for him to visit me and play. I didn't mind his visits. He nodded. Would it be all right, Mary, if I sit here and have some tea with you? I nodded and showed him where to sit. In retrospect, I don't know how he managed to sit in that tiny chair. Perhaps he only pretended to sit in the chair and crouch as I've seen my husband Harry do with the girls. It's hard to say, really. He cleared his throat. Mary, I need to tell you something about your parents. Would you like 1 lump of sugar or 2? I asked. 2, please. Milk? Yes, please. After fixing his imaginary tea, I watched him stir the cup with his tiny spoon. Taking a deep breath, he said, Mary, your parents. A small tear fell down his face. Mary, your father. Another deep breath. Your mother. Full stop. A handkerchief emerged. What I'm trying to say, Mary, is that your parents loved you very much, and they left specific instructions on how to care for you and your sister should anything happen to them. And something has happened. I am to take you now. Take me where, Uncle Thomas? Another tear fell. So that's how we start. And the other excerpt I want to read is we're fast forward now. Lois has fallen ill, and the doctor has come and cared for her. And at this point, Mary has had to look after Lois, and she's done for the night, and she's going back to her room. Lois ate most of her meal. I helped her dress into her nightgown and left the room so she could sleep. It was several hours past midnight when I entered my room to see the bright red of a cigarette light up in the darkness, piercing it with an ominous glow. I fumbled in the dark and lit the oil lamp on my dresser by the door. I could see him better now. Did he ask for Harry? Yes, Mr. Fairmount. Did she ask for me? No, Mr. Fairmount. Mr. Fairmount blew out little circles of smoke. He studied me then, seated in my vanity chair, with one leg crossed over the other. His shoes were shiny, his garments immaculate. How long have you been living here now, Mary? He asked. 2 seasons, a little more. Has my nephew asked for your hand, Mary? No, Mr. Fairmount. I leaned against the door, holding the knob in both my hands behind me. He changed his gaze to the side of the room with the view of the solarium, as if he were studying the empty air. Sitting back most comfortably, he smoked a cigarette. After a while, he spoke again. Mary, I left your baptismal records on the dressing table behind me. The next thing I will get for you is the will, he said matter-of-factly. After a time, he added, did you know that Harry was trying to find your fortune? No. There was a long pause. He asked me about it, but I never knew he tried. He failed, Mr. Fairmount said. If he brings it up again, dissuade him. I can't have my good-natured nephew muddling my affairs. You understand that, don't you, Mary? Here, he finally looked at me again, his eyes piercing my soul. Those who are pure of heart sometimes lack the ability to do what's necessary to secure success. They let their conscience dictate their actions. But you don't struggle with your conscience, do you, Mary? He stood up now and put a cigarette on a tray by my vanity. Do you ever wonder, Mary, after all this time, if Harry comes here to see you or Lois? I would imagine both, Mr. Fairmount. He smiled. I would imagine he would still come to see Lois, even if you weren't here. But I'm not sure he would visit were it reversed. Are you sure, Mary? I stepped aside from the door, and Mr. Fairmount left me alone with my thoughts. So that's the other one.
I'm telling you that another book's got to be on John because he is unbelievable how he comes up with his ways of conniving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a question here. Do I have any character storylines for part 3? Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, it's in the back of the of Mary. We're going to explore, and it's hard. You got to read it. I don't want to say, but we're going to explore different characters' understanding of her truth. And I am going back to Harry narrating just because I like Harry.
Me too.
I do. I like him a ton.
And then we have to have Dimitri come back.
Yes. So that's the other thing. It was kind of hard to do the audiobook because it was a female narration, and I don't want to do it. So there's that.
So any other stories or comments that you have that we can give to the audience before we close out our little fun party tonight?
I think I'm good. What did you ladies think of it?
Of the book or of tonight?
Any of it. What were your thoughts?
I'm happy that we got Mary's story because she definitely did not, at the end of the Fairmounts, was not my favorite character. Now I know a lot more about her, and I understand what she did, what she had to do to survive. And I still think John is the devil, but sorry, that's just me.
I'm with you. I'm very angry at
Mhm.
what happened to Mary. I'm very angry what happened to her sister.
Yep.
And I just can't get past the fact that they lived that many, and we can't give any more information out, but they
No.
lived that long without having each other. And it really
Mhm.
upsets me that anyone in the family that was left in charge could do that. But
And it's funny because I understand in some way. Obviously, I wrote it, but I understand in some ways why it was done that way. And I think in the in book 3, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that, like why Uncle Thomas makes the choices that he does for the girls, and why that is. But yeah, writing something that could possibly be tragic or funny. Who knew, right? Like, oh my God,
crazy. Well, Valerie, I am thrilled that you keep on writing. I'm thrilled, Jamie, that you keep on being our creative mind behind the scenes. So thank you both for bringing to market these wonderful books. We can't wait for the next ones to come out as well. I think you can get the Mary Whitcombe on Amazon. Anywhere else?
Amazon and Barnes and Noble so far. You could also always go to your local bookstore if you have a bookstore that you enjoy purchasing, and just ask them to get it. It does have global distribution has just been a little slow going. I was joking with Jamie sometimes that Mary's proved very elusive and challenging on many levels,
Yep.
not only in the writing of it, but even in the production of it. Just small little things. So it's been a fun journey. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, just place them in the chat. Uh, Jamie, still not into John Fairmount, huh? He's my
I just there's just something about him that
There's a lot
rubs
about
me
him.
the wrong way.
really well.
Um,
You know what I think? It's fine, and I'll shush because I know folks probably want to go home, but absolutely, if you're not home and you want to get home, but do put your questions in the chat if you have any. And thank you. I think Harry is a good man too. But I think John's like the most honest out of all of them. He tells you flat out what he's going to do and why he's going to do it. It's just people don't like to hear it, you know?
yeah, and that may be part of it, but I also think that um, because I know I'm privy to more than anybody else is, because of you and I, our long conversations, that things just pop up and I ask the most random questions sometimes. So I do know a little bit more about John than anybody else does. Um, I just there's just something about him, something let's just say picked up along the way,
Yes.
that'll come out hopefully in book three.
Maybe.
Um, that he just uses that to his advantage, and I don't know. There's just he reminds me of a slick car salesman that can just get his way, and he's
And we
or
love all car salesmen that buy the book.
yeah. Sorry, um, but I think he uses that to his advantage, and I just don't.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to trust somebody like that. I mean, I'm all for honesty, um, and telling the truth at all times, but there's an easier way to do it and not harm so many people around you.
Yeah, he said definitely has a singular vision. I think,
Mhm.
but I think if we think about it, we know a lot of people that are John Fairmount, and the thing that sets him apart than others is that he tells you, you're just not
Mhm.
listening.
You're
And
right.
there's something. So that's what makes him one of my favorite. Is he's very clear. And it's just sort of, it always reminded me of entering, they say never enter into a conversation with the devil
Hmm.
because you will lose it.
Yep.
It's just, it's there. That's what you asked for. He delivers exactly what people asked for. And it sort of reminds me of that ancient Greek curse. May you always get everything you desire.
Yep.
Because within that sometimes lies the curse. So John is a delivery mechanism for which people can get everything that they desire. So it's just
Hmm.
being careful of that. But it's been a fun adventure
Absolutely.
and more to
Should we
come.
mention if those are in the Long Island area? They might want to pop over to a launch party on Saturday evening.
Yes. So if you're on Long Island, which I am, there's a bookstore, it's an independent bookstore. It's called Tiny Raccoon Books. It's in the town of Sayville, and it's near a train station. If you want to take the train in, it's literally like across the street from it. There's a large parking lot by the train station. So you're welcome to join us at 7 o'clock on December 2nd, 7 p.m. in the evening. And it's going to be fun. One, Doreen will be there in person. So I love that. I have my friend Keith is coming. He's an actor. We're going to do a reading together. So I'm thrilled about that. And of course, my friend Mark is going to have his jazz band. Massive fan of jazz. So his jazz band will be playing. And of course, there'll be refreshments and other fun surprises. So my family will be there. So you can meet the crew that I have and the wonderful humans in my life. You met two of them right now, Jamie and Doreen. And I have one last thought, I guess, because we'll close this out, right, Doreen? Is I don't know what it is that any of you out there in the world aspire to achieve. But if there's one thing that I've learned, if it's in your heart, it's in there for a reason. And I hope that you listen to it. And I hope it doesn't take you a lifetime. And you just have to start small. And don't listen to the people that tell you that it's not right or it's not something you can achieve, especially the experts, because that was my experience with the Fairmounts. The experts told me how bad it was, and it's done so well. So thank you, all of you, for one, making it well, do well, and two, for making a different kind of story. It's a different kind of story, and Mary's a different kind of story, and it doesn't follow any tropes. It doesn't even follow any of the rules. Like when you go to school and they tell you this is the beats that you have to. It's none of that. It's a totally different thing, and it was my heart, and it was what I loved, and it was the story that I loved that I brought into the world. And Rick Rubin says that too a lot. If it's something that you love, as long as you love it, that's the most important part. And what the world does it when you share it is, none of your business. So whatever it is that you guys desire out there in the universe, please go for it, even if it's in baby steps, and do it because you love it. And what the world does with it is really none of your business. But just make peace with you. I think if we made peace with ourselves, the world would be a much better
And
place.
so many very successful business people as well as athletes say the exact same thing, to
Yes.
put the naysayers on the side and follow your dream. So congratulations, Valerie, for
Thank you.
executing that in our little world and writing your books. And I can't wait to read the next ones as well.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining and have a great evening. Maybe we'll see you on Saturday night.
Thank you.